podcast to everyone. I'm Ada from Poison Rock, and today I have the honor to have with us. I mean, I can say just Joel Orchestra because everyone knows you as an amazing guitarist. I want to start first asking you how you get in close with music, and especially with guitar. I mean, you can pick up an instrument, so why guitar?
Yeah, AC/DC, Angus Young, seeing him at a young age really inspired me. My parents are classical musicians, and I was playing cello and piano at a young age and didn't really take to it very much. And then I saw
Yeah,
Angus Young, and I thought, that's the coolest dude I've ever seen. I want to be him.
that's amazing. And of course, you being a guitarist, I think you as well should have, your special your gear of an instrument, like for example your setup for guitar. So we have a lot of guitarists always asking, like the guitar hero, like the gears. So where is your main, you can say, or preferred gears when you perform live?
Yeah, I mean, I've really evolved into a Gibson Les Paul player.
Okay.
That's my favorite sounding guitar, and I enjoy Fender Stratocasters and Fender Telecasters. And for Floyd Rose style guitars, I really like the Jackson PC1 that I have. And but yeah, I'm kind of a traditionalist with that. But if there's going to be a Floyd Rose style guitar, that's the thing. And I like Marshall for amps, and I like Friedman. Those are kind of my, just traditional sound. Yeah. Les
And because
Paul,
of course,
Marshall.
because as well you of course your career of course started with, I mean, the well-known career started with Night Ranger, and but then you of course you went in Whitesnake and T.S.O. But of course I wanted to focus a little bit, since you were speaking about guitar and all this gear. When you're performing for Whitesnake, for example, and in the type of stage, and then you go for TSO, which are two different, like, huge main stages, the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and it's like a shows. How do you, I mean, which are the main difference you see playing live, as well for the gear and for everything?
Yeah, I mean, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, we don't do amplifiers on stage because it's such a big, wide stage that you'd be a million miles from your amp anyway. And just to keep the stage open for performance. So we, go direct on that with fractal axe effects units. And so that's different. And that was the same with Cher. That's what I transitioned over to when I played with Cher, or Rock of Ages. We started with real amps at Rock of Ages, but realized that was very impractical and switched over to fractal. Whitesnake is still live amps, real amps on stage. So it always depends on the gig. There's always appropriate gear for the gig. It just depends. And then, yeah, that goes, all the way across. There's going to be differences in just stage presence and things that are expected of you, and there's
Of course, yeah.
every gig has a different set of circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, like with Semi Further, of course, your career started with Night Ranger, but like, I mean, I've asked by many people, and I read there is like a gap. I mean, of course, you released solos, but before 2008, what Joel did?
I mean, I've always been making a living with my guitar. Like, as soon as I got out of guitar school, I went to Musicians Institute in, like, gosh, I got to think about the year now, 1990 and 91, right? And then when I graduated, I had 1 year in LA where I worked at a recording studio and kind of played guitar out there in my, time outside of work. But then I went back to the Chicago area where I grew up and started teaching a lot. I had 70 students a week and started doing gigs on weekends with my band. And then I just kind of like built up the Chicago thing until, I was playing with this girl, Kathy Richardson. She ended up playing Janis Joplin in a show called Love Janis. And then so that was kind of my route into being in the band in that show. And that show came to New York City. And that's when I came out here to New York, where I've been for the last 21 years or 22 years now. So that was my pathway there. But I did a lot of that, played Love Janis for 2 years in New York. Well, I started to play with Big Brother and the Holding Company a bit, and the Turtles. So like oldies bands, so like bands that people necessarily aren't aware that I was a part of. And lots of other style of bands like along the way. I played in acid jazz bands and hip hop bands and like, played every kind of gig I could.
Basically, you had a huge, you can say, musical background.
Well, I mean, I
Different.
made a living on my guitar the whole time. I think that people just don't, realize that. They think that I started making like a living in music at with Night Ranger, but it was actually like long before that I made a living. I think Night Ranger just kind of, drastically increased my visibility to people. Like people actually cared about me for the first time because it's like, who's this guy standing where Jeff Watson used to stand, right?
Yeah,
So.
because as soon as you like jump in Night Ranger or in Whitesnake, I mean, it's clear that you already had a huge experience in playing as well in the shows, because it's not like seeing, a beginner playing guitar. It's like you're doing that for, I mean, all your lifetime.
Yeah,
Basically.
I mean, Love Janice, that was 8 shows a week. So that was hard work for the couple years that ran. You do that, you play more shows than there are days in the year,
Yeah, yeah.
So, and there was another show that same director had me on called It Ain't Nothing But the Blues. That was a blues theater show that I went around with. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not like the most traditional path in the world, but I've always managed to like be working a lot with my guitar and be able to make a
Yeah.
living with it. So, all these things, even in New York City, I subbed on pit gigs, like down, being in the orchestra down in the pit playing.
Yeah.
And so I did all kinds of things that people would be like, they wouldn't expect. They just figure you learn to shred and you join Whitesnake or something, but it's not like that.
There's always behind the behind the story. There is always behind the scene in everything, because of course, I mean, and right now you came from an amazing tour with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. How it goes?
Oh, it was a great, very successful tour. It was nice to have very little trouble with COVID this year. So we did great with that. Anytime, you can get from the start line to the finish line these days with a tour, it's a good thing, So everything went well and, looked like great numbers. The show was great this year. I mean, it's great every year, but, it's just great to be a part of that. It's a huge production.
There is a lot of a news because of course there are some singles dropping out in some days with the Revolution Saints that you joined recently. So how this happened? Like they called you, you just met them like casually, how this happened, this meeting?
Well, I mean, Dean Castronovo and Jeff Pilson and I know each other for quite some time. I think that Jack Blades and Doug Aldrich were just interested in Doug's interested in doing Dead Daisies. Jack's got Night Ranger.
Yeah.
And I just think that it wasn't the best fit for them. And the label, I think, was choosing to continue the brand. They wanted to continue Revolution Saints. I don't think they wanted to call it quits. So at first, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, following in Doug's footsteps again, but Doug was actually the one who recommended me when I talked to him. He was the one to say you should have Joel do it. And so as long as Doug was cool with it and Jack was cool with it and us continuing on and it didn't feel disrespectful, then, obviously it makes sense, because if you're a guitarist and you get an offer to play with Dean Castronovo and Jeff Pilson, you go, well, yeah, I'm going to say yes. Yeah. So, but at first I just wanted to make sure everybody was cool and that there wasn't going to be any weird feelings anywhere. But I think the record label deciding to continue the band and then Doug being okay with it were really the main things for me.
Yeah, because of course there are as well the other project, the Iconic, that has been we can say a lot of huge members with you as well are in this project. That, I mean, what is going of, balling on the pot for this band for the next month, year, some lives planning?
Yeah, I mean, I think people can expect some more music from Iconic for sure. And my hope is always there to play live with these things. That's always the question that everybody has. Are you guys ever going to tour with any of these? And for me, the answer is always yes. I mean, I'm willing to get out there and do it. So we just need to have everybody kind of find the availability and schedule wise. But, I'm always into let's put in the work and let's go do it. And I think that as a lot of these historic bands retire, and go away.
Yeah.
You're going to see the importance of a lot of these quote unquote project bands become higher, you know, because people are going to want to still hear the style of music. We need rock bands, you know. So I think that you'll see the importance of these bands rise as the years go by.
Yeah, of course. And just making a step back about, of course, Whitesnake and the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Of course, in both of band, you play with amazing guitarists as well, with Caffrey, with Rob Beach, played. And just I want to ask you about playing with these as well talented guitarists as you. Do you see any difference with playing with them?
I mean, I've always been comfortable being in a two guitar situation. Pretty much all my bands have been that way. So if you take the main bands that I've been a part of, obviously, you know, playing with Brad Gillis and Night Ranger for that time, for that 7 years, and working with Reb, as you mentioned, and Whitesnake, and with Chris now for 12 years in TSO. I'm pretty much used to doing the two guitar thing, you know. It's so I feel I like it. I think it's, you know, anything that sounds big and cool. And I've never been the kind of guy who needs every guitar solo or anything like that. It's all good. Let's just rock, you know?
With your solo, you did something amazing with the Purple album and with Whitesnake. You put some, like, can I say, innovation, your influences doing, for example, Burn.
Mm-hmm.
You just, when you were recording again, Purple album of Whitesnake. You did in Burn, and you like the solo. You rearrange a little bit. You put your own influences in that part, and which is absolutely amazing. So we can hear your own print, your own music, your own sound. I mean, everyone can hear Joel Orchestra sound in that album as well.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So, I mean, I think that's that section that I soloed over was actually a brand new section of the song that David and Reb wrote together, because didn't exist in the original. So we're looking for, you know, with Whitesnake, the ability to have everybody take a solo live. So that section kind of got written in. But yeah, you know, it's cool to be a part of it, and you know, making the Purple album was great fun. It was a great way to start in Whitesnake. Go like straight into the studio and record those classic songs. So yeah, had a great time doing that.
And of course, the following album, you were as well involved, and you co-wrote with David.
Yeah, Flesh and Blood was really kind of where I got involved more with obviously the writing. You know, with the Purple album, it's a lot more creative than people would realize, because some of those songs are drastically different versions. You know, like the song "Sail Away" was not even acoustic, and David wanted me to do an acoustic, like, you know, arrangement of that for the album. So there was a lot of creativity involved in making the Purple album, more than people realize. But Flesh and Blood, certainly that was like actually writing songs with David and Reb, and having the ability to you know, contribute. And that was really David just being generous. You know, I mean, he could have told me no and said, but you know, I think he wanted me involved, and so big thanks to David for that. And you know, it's been a great run with David. You know, working all this the last 8 years or so. So yeah, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an idol to me, because for me it's already an honor. I mean, speaking with you, because Whitesnake is a band that I grew up with, and of course Trans-Siberian Orchestra as well, because I did the interview like a few weeks ago with Chris. So that's why as well I wanted to ask about your relationship with Chris, this amazing friendship, because I saw all the time on the social media sharing moments together with him. Like, for example, in the music as well, you both influenced each other, or about, because as well, you can see your friendship as well in the stage. It's
Yeah,
like
well, we have a chemistry in that band, period. Not just with Chris, but like we've been together for 12 years, you know, except our bass player David died tragically. But you know, Tony Dickinson has come in and fit right in. But you know, we have a great bond because we've been working together for 12 years, all these musicians, you know, so we're tight, you know. We, like, Chris and I, we don't even have to discuss, like, we don't have to discuss what we're going to do. We'll end up with stage choreography for songs just totally based on each other's instinct. We know, like, I know what Chris wants to do and where he wants, you know, it's so we just, you know, we read off each other really well after this much time together.
Yeah, and of course, I think right now it's a little bit time of resting for Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I was going to get on tour in this year, or planning something new.
Yeah, hopefully we'll, have another tour this fall, and anything beyond that, I'm always open-minded, if they need anything from me, I'm always here.
And what about that Orchestra 13th? I mean, it's like you published some album, like the beginning, some debut album, and then in 2021 you posted another album, which was completely different, involving musician, singer, like a journey was this album more. So we gonna see something new about that? Like personal
Yeah, I
musical.
mean, Joel Hoekstra's 13 is considered my rock side project. And so Dying to Live came out in 2015. And that's Russell Allen and Jeff Scott Soto split the lead vocals on that. But it's Vinny Appice, Tony Franklin, and Derek Sherinian. And then 2021, the only difference was I had Russell sing all the lead vocals. And so now I just turned in the follow-up to that. That'll be out sometime this year, sometime in 2023. So people can plan on hearing a new album from Joel Hoekstra's 13.
So and it's gonna be something different from the past. I mean, what is of course, in every album there are
So I
different
mean, it's gonna be throwback classic hard rock, but there's the same lineup except a new lead singer this time.
Okay.
So, but we're not quite ready to make that announcement, etc. But
Okay, but if you have to choose one big musician that influenced your way of playing guitar, you should be like one and only in the whole world.
It's impossible to do that. I mean, I had a lot of influences along the way, so it's really hard to narrow down to one person.
So we can say just a lot of musicians, a lot of artists.
Yeah, I mean, starting out at the heavy metal bands, I go with bands that influence me more than specific guitarists, But if I look back, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, those were all the early bands. Then I got into more melodic bands like Journey, Boston, Foreigner, progressive bands like Rush and Yes. All the guitar albums like Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Steve Morse, all these were big influences on me. You take classic rock bands like Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, those are all big influences on me.
You.
Yeah, you take all that stuff and put it together, and that's kind of an idea where I'm coming from.
If you could give, for example, an adjective to your all career, like if, for example, it's an autobiography of Joel Hoekstra, and just give it a title, a random title. How could it be?
Gosh, professional musician. The life of a professional guitarist, because that's what I really wanted to be more than famous or anything like that. I just wanted to make a living with guitar, and it, as it turns out, some of the stuff kind of elevated to that status of what some people would say is, you're successful or whatever. But I just wanted to be a guitarist. That was my thing, like I didn't want to have to make a living doing anything else. That's it.
So that you achieve your dream, basically. That's what happened. Yeah, and that's amazing, because I mean, with these days it's easier, of course, but it's you have to be talented for doing that, and especially being lucky. And of course you have a lot of careers going on, and so what we can say that is the nearest things that happen in this early 2023, like a new project.
Well, I mean, I'm recording actually the next Revolution Saints album, kind of as we speak, because we have another album that's in the works. So working on that, working on another project album, like not necessarily something that I'm going to be like in the band for, but kind of more in a producer role. And doing sessions and teaching, and I have some random gigs right now this month. That's kind of the immediate stuff, and then the year kind of opens up as it goes. But I'm always working, for sure. I have a lesson I'm teaching in 2 minutes, actually.
Yeah, okay. And before just saying and you, Joel, a huge thank you, if you just say quick and a huge big fan of you, which is his name, Calogero. And he really
Calogero?
Yes. He really he's the one that really loves Whitesnake and you as a musician.
Hey, Calogero, thanks for the support, man. Rock on.
So thank you so much, Joel. And really was really a pleasure and an honor. Finally, after 25 years almost, that I'm following this band.
Gosh,
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.